What about the positive reinforcement, I hear you say? So where do I begin with that? I always love training dogs and um, all that kind of thing. And I certainly would have used treats for the dogs and didn't with the horses, so at the start. But when I studied my psychology degree, I started to realise that if we really looked at what we were doing with horses, traditionally training, that a lot of it was based on using things that really weren't so nice for the horse and that were tapping into their flight response. And so I wanted the horses that I was training to be happy. I wanted them to enjoy what we were doing, and I wanted things to be safe. So I was away when I was just finishing my degree. I was invited to go and stay with a behaviourist in England who was doing horse work, and at that stage she was the only person I knew of who was doing that. Linda Hams was her name, and that was in the late 1990s. And Linda said to me, "What about clicker training?" And I said, "What's that?" Hadn't heard of it. And she showed me some stuff that she'd been doing with her horse, and she talked about work that she did with her clients, and I thought, this is interesting. So I came back, started working the riding school, and thought I would, and I didn't have my own horse at that point. The mare I'd been loaning I didn't have anymore, and actually I had two different mares on loan and I didn't have either of them, so I just had the livery horses to work with. And one of the livery owners said to me she'd like me to have a go at clicker training her horse. She wanted him to play with a jolly ball. So we started with getting him to touch his nose to it, and then I thought we would get him have it lower and lower to the ground and have him nosing it along the ground and picking it up and that kind of thing. And he would touch it when I was holding it up, but as soon as I brought it down near the ground, nothing worked. So I just thought I was really bad at clicker training. And then his behaviour kind of gradually started to go downhill. And then he went to the vet, and we found out that he had a sinus infection that was actually coming from a tooth root infection. So he probably was in quite a lot of pain, and every time he lowered his head, the pressure he would have been experiencing would have been very uncomfortable. So that certainly explained why he didn't want to lower his head to touch the ball or push the ball. So that was a good lesson for me, because that was me just starting out with working with the clicker, and it got me really thinking about how it's not just about training, and you've got to understand how the horse is feeling as well. But anyway, I went on from that. I then bought a mare, and I really had the liberty then to start properly playing about with clicker training. And then I got another horse, a little Shetland pony, and she had a foal, and so I had a great time doing lots of training. And then I started to work with other people's horses and built it up. And I taught my first workshop on how to introduce your horse to the clicker in 2003. So that's 20 years ago. And since then I have obviously been refining what I do and improving my teaching and my training skills. And so I now have some online courses that people can do if they want to learn the basics of getting started with a clicker, but I also do lessons, and I'll come to your yard and do a workshop for you and your friends if you want. I do have a lot of experience in this area. I don't think it's the be all and end all of everything. I think, we've got to be, and this is where being a behaviourist comes in, because I've got to look at each individual horse and sort of decide the suitability of what we're doing and what's the best way to train that particular horse, and recognising some of the issues that there might be. So it's never just cut and dried, oh, here's a clicker, here's some treats, off you go and train the horse. There are a lot of things that you have to think about first, and I do my best to educate people about those. And it is a skilled piece of work at the end of the day. Not everybody's going to be good at it. Some people are slightly more gifted as trainers than others, and you can absolutely learn the skills. Absolutely. Some people might take a little bit longer to learn them than others. But what I would say is really, when it comes to getting the horse started, it's probably better to have an expert do that and assess the horse and know whether they're suitable or not. And certainly if it's a young horse, you want someone experienced supervising what you're doing and working with you until you have a lot more experience yourself. But yeah, so positive reinforcement is very much a big part of what I do. big part of how I start young horses, a big part of how I rehabilitate problem horses, or traumatized horses. But it's not the whole picture, it's just a part of it. But it is definitely part of what I do, and if that interests you, which I really hope it does, then give me a shout and I can come and do one-to-one sessions or workshops or whatever you like. For me, it is especially important in this day and age as we talk about social license and how the horse world really needs to pull up its socks and improve what it's doing. You know, I've been teaching this way for 20 years now, and I changed the way I trained because I studied and the evidence said do this differently or do this better, as I felt. And I think it's really, really important that we do sit up and pay attention to how the horse is feeling, and we really do our absolute best to have happy horses that are enjoying their work and not shut down or forced or made to do things. There is a change happening. It's slow, but it's definitely coming. And without saying, I've been telling you for years, this is a good way to train. So, you know, give me a shout and let me show you.